There are rules about how to efficiently increase the production of force over time.
Low bar places the barbell lower on your upper back.
Doing the exercise in the most effective way possible to facilitate an increase in strength over time.
High bar versus low bar back squats.
We talk about the squat today. Let's keep in mind the fact that we are training for strength.
There are upsides to low bar squatting. There are good things about it.
High bar versus low bar debate.
Low bar squat, you're gonna get more forward bend.
Does this really make that much of a difference?
The low bar position on the back is the best way to set up the squat.
Make their back as short as possible to make that lever arm a little bit shorter.
What ends up happening is, in result, you can lift more weight.
The CrossFit Games announced a 1 rep max back squat this year. A lot of people are confused about what I'm talking about when it comes to the low bar position of the back squat, and then there's even other people that are accusing me of it being a cheating movement.
Is this true?
That's ridiculous. They were trying to rustle my feathers, but I didn't like that very much. And I do think that before I show you what the low bar is supposed to look like, I should tell you why it's better than the high bar in general. There are people who are incredibly dogmatic about the squat. They said that there's only one way to squat.
The only people need a front squat are Olympic weightlifters. Nobody else can benefit from a front squat, and it's clear through our analysis that this is true.
And in a way, I'm going to try to do the same thing when it comes to the low bar, telling you that you will lift more weight when it comes to the position of the bar on your back. The lower, the better. But just like everybody knows that one person who can eat as much junk food as they want and their six-pack will seemingly never go away, they're incredibly lean all year round for no reason, no matter what they eat, there are also going to be those exact same people who are able to squat with a high bar and be like, I don't know what you're talking about, it's so easy, what's so hard, why would you want to move it any lower, I'm so strong. It doesn't matter! It's the personal trainer who, just like Matt Fraser in his Will Tennyson video, says do it like me.
You're just gonna lead me to it.
Just do like 1 or 2 reps, and then we'll see what the starting point is.
I don't even know what the starting point is.
Because it worked for me. Well, maybe you're really talented and maybe you should look a little bit deeper. Maybe you should listen to some other people who know a little bit more about the squat than you do.
Matt's just like, kick up and stay in the square. I don't think you actually realize I have no training on it.
The best way that I've ever been able to explain this to people is using the leg press. You know that thing where people throw on tens of thousands of plates? They take up every 45-pound plate in the gym to do quarter reps. I'm here to tell you that that's not an incredibly useless exercise, the leg press. I'm not telling you it's better than the squat. I'm telling you that when you lay down on that thing like this, and you're sitting here and you've got your entire back supported by that giant pillow, and you're pushing however much weight you're pushing on the leg press machine, you know, whether or not you're doing one of these or you're doing one of these and you're getting real deep, the difference between the leg press and the squat is going to be what you're being supported by. And how far that point of support is.
Because low bar reduces the length of the lever arm away from your center of gravity by putting the weight lower on your shoulders, down close to your traps, what ends up happening is, in result, you can lift more weight, which makes it perfect for a sport like powerlifting, where the only thing you're measured on is your ability to lift external load. Then low bar is awesome.
Because the thing that you're moving, as we all know, even from the CrossFit Level 1 handbook, is core to extremity. And when it comes to the squat, the core and the closest thing to the powerhouse of what you're moving, which would be your legs, are your hips.
Get off of me!
And the low bar squat is an incredibly hip-dominant movement.
Wow.
Remember that. Riddle me this one, Batman. Why is it that the front squat is harder than the back squat in general? It's because the bar is further away from your center of mass. It's out in front of you.
This is true for a front squat, a high bar squat, low bar squat, everything. Because if the system is not in balance, you can't squat it. And especially in the instance of a front squat, if you bend over with the front squat too far and you get the bar too far out in front of the middle of the foot, it won't stay on your shoulder.
Remember how I said you have that entire pillow sitting behind you when you're doing the leg press? That entire thing is supporting your back. You don't even need your back to leg press. It's incredible. Why not? And that's why people like to do it, because it's easier. And if you're an intelligent coach or you're an intelligent athlete, you know that the weaker your back is, the weaker your squat is going to be, because you can't express your leg strength with a weak posterior. And the posterior is irrelevant when it comes to the leg press, but that's not the case when it comes to the low bar squat, the high bar squat, and the front squat. And to be entirely honest with you, I think that it's a very strong tool to use in the CrossFit gym. CrossFitters everywhere are like, it doesn't carry over to anything. But if you're doing cleans on one day, if you're doing front squats on another day, and high bar back squats, you're doing repetitive movement patterns every single time. What I'm going to show you is an entirely different movement pattern in the low bar squat. Here we go. Everybody knows how to unrack a barbell, right? You put your hands on it a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. I'd like to look at where my thumbs are in relation to this knurling. You pick the sucker up, you walk the sucker back, and you keep your chest nice and tall, your hips sit back, your knees go out, and you're just doing a couple of squats, right? Maybe that doesn't look good to some people. I think it looks phenomenal. I think I have the greatest squat in the world. I'm no James Hobart, but it's good to me. This is what it looks like from the back. They call this the Instagram way because the only way you can face a camera when the squat rack is up against the wall is if you unrack the barbell backwards. But you know that they're doing it specifically for Instagram because you know it's harder to put the bar down when you walk away from the rig rather than doing it like a normal person. But for the sake of the video, I gotta show you this because you can't see my back the other way. If you're flexible and have a small skeleton, you might be able to get away with getting a little bit narrower, but most people have pretty wound up shoulders or are wider or are rather inflexible, so you'll want to go pretty wide. I know that I put my pinky ring on the bench press rings that I'll use, that inner ring right there. What do they call that? A powerlifting ring, and that outside one is the Olympic lifting ring. So I put my ring finger on the powerlifting ring. From there, I get underneath the bar. You are going to reach your elbows back. When you reach your elbows back, you're creating a shelf. The shelf is your scapula.
In a position that is right below the spine of the scapula. A nice landmark.
You might see that popping up behind. That's why I'm wearing the tank top. Also, your deltoids are kind of where that bar is going to sit, on the shelf of your scapula.
What happens is a shelf is formed on the back.
And also on the top of your deltoids.
Across the rear delta is the technical term.
So right about there. When there's weight on the bar, which there isn't, you can kind of rock into it, get comfortable, readjust the wrists, and then you stand up. When you stand up, you got a little bit of a forward tilt. This is part of the reason people don't like it. It's not quite as functional. But the bar is closer to my hip, and because the bar is closer to my hip,
you can lift more external load.
Now that you've seen what it looks like back here, I keep my elbows back, I squeeze the absolute hell out of my lats. Yes, my lats, those things that will make it so you don't have that glorious pillow like you do on the leg press machine. You have to support the weight on your back with your strong back. The best way to do that is thinking about contracting and squeezing down on the bar as you're keeping the elbows back, continuing to keep that shelf on the squat. Now, I'm no physicist.
Is this true?
Physician, that's a doctor. But the closer the bar is going to be to
the hip joint,
the easier the sucker is going to be to load. And I'll put myself right next to a couple of other squats as I'm doing these, but the biggest difference is going to be my feet are a little bit wider. I'm trying to push the floor apart, and I'm really trying to reach my hips down and back. The biggest difference when I'm doing these is my bottom position is right here. I literally can't get any lower. Like, I can't sink any lower than this, which isn't the case when I'm a little bit higher and my feet are a little bit narrower. As I'm squatting, you're trying to reach in between the spot on where your ball sack and your butthole are. Yeah, ha ha ha, that's very funny. If you don't have a ball sack, imagine what that would be like. But you're reaching your hips down and back into that position, and then you're pushing the floor away on the way up. If you do this right, in my opinion, you will have sore adductors. If you don't know what your adductors are, those are your little muscles in between your femurs, up where I just told you you should be reaching down and back with. This is where it gets kind of crazy. No one's gonna understand this because everyone wants to have a nice tall torso because everybody wants their Olympic lifts to be pretty, and I understand. But when you're coming out of the bottom of this squat, you wanna reach up with the hips like this. You reach up.
Consciously learn to drive your hips up out of the squat. It is very, very useful to have a mental cue to think about to lift heavy weights. And that mental cue is to shove your butt up out of the bottom.
It is a posterior driven movement. Big breath into the belly, you're squeezing the crap out of the back, you are reaching down and back between the ball sack and the butthole, and then you drive up through the hips and you squeeze.
And this is dependent on the position that you occupy when you get to the bottom. You have to have enough hip back in the movement. It all ties into the back angle.
Let's load this thing up a little bit, why not? Now I can show you how I set this up. You reach your elbows back, there's my deltoids. You stand, take your step back, set your feet, and you reach, and you pop straight back and up. We'll do sets of 3s as we build here. Jump, get a little bit tall, there's my deltoids, reach back, big breath into the stomach. Step back, here we go, socks are a little slippy, I don't care, and we're up. Boom. Boom. That one, you can start to see my hips rock a little bit, right? That's perfect. I did one of these. Socks were a little bit slippy, so I don't trust these things.
Consciously learn to drive your hips up out of the squat.
All right, so CrossFit Games athletes, I did this in 3 sets in like 3 minutes with no warm up, and I feel great. But we gotta talk a little bit more about that.
If you just want to lift a shitload of weight in the gym, or if you're trying to compete or at least train for powerlifting, low bar absolutely is the way to go.
Maybe I'll do one more set. You wanna see how often I use a belt? We're gonna use this belt. Well, that was easy. And I'm gonna tell you why it was easy. Obviously, that's because I'm on steroids. That's why it's so easy.
Oh, well.
No, the reason that that's easier for me is because due to my limb lengths, and just like 7 out of 10 other people that I've ever worked with, as I've worked with thousands of people and taught them all how to squat, a lot of people have a much easier time and are much more comfortable in the low bar position. That does not mean, and if you watch this video and you try it, and the only squat you do for the rest of your time on this planet Earth is the low bar squat, you have misrepresented everything that I'm showing you here. This is a tool in the tool chest. It is a tool that I think a lot of the CrossFit Games athletes should have in their back pocket, because if you are like me, and if you are like 7 out of 10 people that I have worked with, and you do have the limb lengths that allow you to express a heavier load in a 1 rep max squat, and you are not able to do that when push comes to shove, and you leave points on the table, then you have done yourself a disservice. That applies to people everywhere on the planet. If you have a dogmatic coach, or if you are dogmatic enough in your ways to think that you have to high bar because high bar is the only way, then you're just being dumb. It's dumb to only do things one way. Even if you have a superior high bar back squat, maybe you should do a low bar back squat, because maybe then that sort of a load in that weird way and you're getting that weird gooch feeling. Oh my God. Stress on the adductors like I talked about will have a great carryover to your deadlift. Maybe you won't rip an adductor when you're doing max sprints because you did a little bit of training on the low bar back squat, because when you're low bar squatting, you're trying to spread the floor, your legs a little bit wider, and that adductor stretch and strain and pull and training in that load with the low bar back squat will carry over to something else, and you don't even know what that might mean for you.
Is this true?
But what do I know? I don't know anything. But what I do know is I did not plan on squatting that much, but I know I can do that because I'm much more comfortable with it than I am with the high bar. And the irony in all of this is that the Leon U shoes, you don't need those freaking things when you're doing a low bar squat. It's actually probably detrimental. Do they have a flat shoe to Leon U? These were 5 years! Remember your key takeaways. The closer you can get the bar to your hips, the easier. The less distance between the hip and the shoulder, or wherever the bar is placed on the shoulder, yes, higher on the back is further away from the shoulder. Those are inches into a math equation. Those inches increase the work. This isn't really something that I'll argue with people about, because it's really stupid when you put it like that. You are simply mathematically incorrect when you argue those points. But that said, there are 3 out of 10 people out there that should completely throw this video away. I feel great when I squat. Well, that's good for you. But for the 7 out of 10, play with it, try it out. And that's all I have to say about that.